Hi everybody, Mature Simmer here. So, welcome back to Misty Hills here at Hobo's Hollow. So, it's getting a little late here in October. Got a little bit of a storm as I get here. But, here, getting ready to take care of the weeds, as you could see. So, ended up being delayed a bit. Luckily, I kind of realized as I got back in here, I'm like, yeah, this could be a problem, but luckily it all worked out. Let's see. Getting stuck on that harvester. In that, I'm still at the point where I can drive on this without damaging the crops, because I don't have a trailer with thin tires. So even though the spreader has thin tires, I do not have that opportunity. Alright, it's a bit of a challenge here. The harvester being parked there, I just wasn't able to get back here perfectly straight, because as you can see, we're kind of running in there, but all is well and good. And at this point now, we will go ahead, and if there's anything we've learned, it's that you can't always see the spray except in certain directions. So I'll go this way, and well, I was able to see it at one point. I think I'm moving away from the edge, so I need to be careful here. So on the far side by the trees, we should see it, but we're not. So yeah, just here in the nighttime, it's just not as obvious as we'd like it to be. Just because I think we're not really getting any light coming through. So let's see. Yeah, there's just not an angle I can get the view, so I'm sorry about that. I was hoping that it would be a little bit clearer, but it is not. But we're using, small amounts. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to get through the whole field here with what I've got. I'm hoping I can, but right now we've used about 40 liters or so, so it's certainly not been a huge amount, but that's also only one pass. So let me get this resolved here, and then I will go this way. Again, what I can't clearly see is kind of how far away I was, so it's going to be a bit of a challenge as I come back to just make sure I get far enough, but I should be able to turn around relatively quickly. I mean, like there I can see the dead weeds, but this is one of the downsides also of trying to do this at night. But if I don't get on here today, I'm not honestly sure that I'm going to be able to spray the field without destroying crop, which obviously I would prefer not to do. Alright, so I'm going to turn here. I'm going to fix this by moving this over. Again, I'm in the middle of gray weeds there, so I should be okay. So at this point we'll turn it on, and we've got some fresh weeds there. You can see they're now turning gray, but there's enough cover here that, we may use a lot more than we thought. But yeah, I just can't get an angle where you can see the spraying clearly coming out. So, like there's a weed there. No, it's just they're dying, but there just isn't enough light no matter what I do. So it's gonna be one of those. Maybe when we do it next time, if I do it in the daylight, we might have an opportunity. But I think there just isn't enough ambient light, certainly out in the air, to do anything. And the artificial light from the tractor and the boom obviously are shining in such a way that it just doesn't show it. I mean, I did see a puff at one point, but I've not been able to recreate that, so I'm not sure if... I think it got caught. Obviously, if I saw it, it was in the recording, but it was just momentary, certainly. So the big question is really going to be, can I do this and get everything done without having to go get any more herbicide? And obviously I'm not going to know that until I'm fully complete here. You know, the other thing I've got to try to figure out is, you know, am I going to be able to turn around? Like, this is easier here, but it's going to be a bit more challenging in other areas of the field because, whoops, it's going to be a lot more challenging if I forget to turn on the sprayer. So I was all excited I could make the turn, and instead I have a problem where I couldn't actually spray the field. See, like there, I'm going to get stuck on the tree, but I did get by. Alright, so now I'll turn this on. It shouldn't, in theory, spray out in the grass because there aren't weeds out there. And so far it appears to be functioning that way. You know, obviously things are going gray, and we're also seeing some usage. But you can see there are some pretty big patches of weeds here on the field. And so that's going to be what will determine if we actually can get away with this or not. So it's actually not that late in the day, but it should be much later. You know, even with the -2 time on the server, time has shifted a little bit. So tomorrow morning, hopefully, I'll try to sync the server again and get it closer to real time. And that'll give me a chance then to check the cows and make sure everything's running. But while we're going ahead here, I'm going to go ahead and take a peek at that just so you get a visual as well and get to see where we're at. Right, so you can see we're 100% productivity. We're getting close on capacity. We're at least yellow now. You know, I'm still thinking 200,000 is going to be the capacity, but that is going to remain to be seen, and it's still probably going to be days away before we get to validate that that's accurate. And more importantly, I'm going to have to make sure I don't run out of material. Otherwise, we're going to just delay getting there. So again, I've got enough room here. But let's see, this should work. So hopefully that will get where we need it to be. There may be small areas that we miss. And you can see now if I go here, I now have, you know, the weeds are showing as done, which they were not before. And so I've got an average score of 76, which is going to give me that environmental score, which increases the sell price by 8%. So we're only getting about half the bonus we can get, but maintaining the grass field at the top level would require a lot of material to do and a lot of time. And because once again this isn't a profit-centric series, and I'm not pressing that as I am in generational farming, I'm not really worried about doing that, so I'm willing to forego a little bit of that bonus to just focus on what I need to on the farm instead of maximizing everything that I can. It's also very disorienting kind of doing this in the dark. It just made it seem like I was drifting. Obviously when I turned on my snap line there, we could see I was not, but it's very easy to kind of feel like something's happening because you don't see much beyond the lights that are available on the equipment. So I would imagine, just like what we struggle with here, I would think doing this work in real life on a farm would be pretty challenging. I'd be curious, if we had the opportunity to speak with someone who has done this, how kind of realistic all of that is. Alright, let's see. Alright, so I should now be able to do this and get a pretty sharp turn. I have not turned off the sprayer, but then we get that swing around with the arm and it should catch everything. For an environmental score piece, we've hit it all. Usually you just have to start to spray the field with the equipment to get the full credit. It doesn't actually require you to go ahead and actually cover the whole field. So from a straight realism standpoint, it obviously gives us kind of a way to fudge it a little bit. And, but I think yield-wise, we would still get the hit of areas of the field where we haven't taken out the weeds. So there's still a benefit to going ahead and doing that, because otherwise you're going to have areas of the field where you're going to get a yield hit because you have weeds present in the field. So I'm trying to think of then what the situation will be. The other thing I want to check here, I've still got some silage left, so I'm probably going to have the BGA fall short again unless I take the time before I'm done here tonight and run another load over. I could go ahead. I certainly have that 30,000 sitting in the crampy over there, and that might be easy enough, and that should get me through to the morning. And then certainly if I go ahead and add more before I do any sinking, then I don't run the risk of running out, I think. So maybe I'll take the time to do that, because at this point I'm about halfway over. It's going to get interesting as the trees get closer on the other side as to whether or not I'll be able to really make a turn without obviously missing some things. So that's going to be part of my experiment as I again learn to work these fields. This is the first time I'm actually spraying for weeds on this field, so I have not had this piece of equipment out here until now, so I'm going to have to, everything I'm doing here is for the first time. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will then, unless something really changes, because it's only going to take an extra couple minutes, I'm going to run that remainder of the silage over to the BGA so that at least that can keep moving along. And that will be what I get done here tonight. And then probably at some point my next task will be to start getting some grass cut. It just again will remain to be seen how much that is, because I'm still trying to balance the workload between generational farming and so forth, and there's been a lot going on there. I again have mowed there, but have not collected. So I've got that sitting around to do, and I've just got less time to spend in-game lately to do things, so it's been a bit of a challenge. So I'm trying to avoid falling behind on things, but it is becoming more and more difficult to do that. So we'll see how everything goes, but at this point I'm going to wrap this one up, and I will see you next time.